Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Let's talk about Sasha for a minute. So, Brando and Sasha, Sasha thinking that she's going to be going to talk to a psychiatrist, and in reality, Brando pretty much lied to her. And she finds out that this whole thing is set up so this way Brando can get legal guardianship of her. She's not with that idea. But Brando's like, yo, listen, it's either here or prison. And Sasha was like, at this point, prison would be better. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure going to Pentonville would not be better at all. Like, that is the last place that she needs to go there. That she needs to be. Okay? Just for all sorts of obvious reasons. But Sasha is just like, she's not doing it, she's not with it. And, she starts talking about all the reasons why. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, bro, you literally try to assault someone and trash their car. Up until this point, you have not been making good decisions with your life. And there's been so many times where people have been telling her, you need to go to counseling, you need to sit there and go to meetings and things of that nature. Grief counseling. But instead, she just kept making one bad decision after the next. And at this point, I'm like, bro, maybe you need somebody else to take control of your life for a little bit because it's a dumpster fire at this point. And most likely, you're probably going to get fired. And speaking of being fired, talk about Lucy for a minute because Lucy is talking to Valentine about trying to push Sasha out. Of course, she knew she couldn't really get Valentine on her side, or well, not really Valentine on her side, but like Valentine is like, I don't deal with that stuff. Like I'm just the investor. You need to sit there and have a meeting with your friends or whatever, and do that stuff yourself. But this isn't the first time that she brought up pushing Sasha out. So, while Sasha's at the pool talking about, oh, let's take selfies, I'm like, bro, you're gonna come back working Monday morning and realize that you don't have a job. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not being heartless about the situation because Liam and everything like that was heartbreaking. Okay, there's very few moments where I've done videos that I felt like I was ready to tear up, and that was definitely when that whole thing happened. That was definitely one of those moments. But I'm like, bro, what did you do after that? You didn't go to counseling. You didn't talk to Kevin. You didn't do any of that. You decided to rush into a marriage, start doing some stuff, and here we are. And now you have the opportunity to not go to jail or to probably at best get your sentence reduced, but you don't want to listen to anyone because you know better. So, speaking of Lucy and Valentine, well, Lucy's not there trying to ask information, as far as trying to get her, Sasha gone or whatever. Valentine's like, I don't really handle that stuff. And they get to a point of talking about Victor, and Lucy's like, I'm not really interested in Victor like that. And so Valentine realized that, listen, if you're not into my father, then you're trying to get information from him. What information are you trying to get from Victor? I don't know. I guess Lucy thought that she could sit there and try to outsmart Valentine, which was to sit there and say stupid is putting it mildly. Anyway, Lucy doesn't give him anything, and she heads on out. You find out later on that she's followed by Valentine because she runs into Anna. They go back and forth, because Anna's still sitting there blackmailing her. And when Lucy leaves, Valentine is just looking at the whole conversation and walks up to Anna. It's like, all right, I see we were keeping secrets again. Now, the whole storyline with Lucy trying to blackmail Anna, Anna trying to blackmail Lucy, because she doesn't really trust what Valentine is saying. And she knows that Victor's up to something. But my whole thing is like, you're doing all this runaround, and granted, this is great for story. But if you don't trust Valentine, and he's always going to sit there and keep something from you, then what are you doing? Like, literally, what are you doing? Now, granted, Anna also had to talk with Victor. And I guess they're doing a little spy game or whatever, trying to ask questions and see what you can get out the other person. But the minute they talked about Charlotte and how Charlotte was thriving, she was really happy in boarding school, and she really wanted to stay, and Valentine didn't have the heart to pull her away, Anna knew that there was something up with that story. That particular part of that conversation, it was like red flags were just going off in her head. So I don't know. A lot of people would probably be like, at this point, they need to hurry up the story. They need to fast. They need to kind of wrap some of these stories up. And although this story does need to be wrapped up, it also needs to be done. It also needs to be focused more. It also needs to be focused on more. So this way, it doesn't feel like a rush job, and you can actually move the story in a timely pace. Once again, we have problem. That problem that me, DC, Brock, JLJ, and probably a lot of other people have talked about. The cast is way too damn bloated. So this is where we are now. Now speaking of Liz, because she was another person that I was doing a comparison with Sasha, compare those two. When Jordan's asking questions about where Liz's whereabouts was, she can't really give definitive answers. It's very vague. It's like, yeah, I was walking around and I was walking in the woods and I don't remember exactly where I was and this, that, and the third, and getting attitudes, getting an attitude with Jordan like, oh, well, like, what business visit is yours or something like that. I was like, she's a cop and she's asking me questions. Finn kind of sees that, you know, the answers that Liz is giving Jordan is making her look hella suspicious. So Finn is like, you know what? Listen, do we need a lawyer? Like, what's going on? Because we can just get a lawyer down here right now. It seems like you're interrogating her. Anyway, Jordan's like, no, I want to sit there and eliminate you from the pool or whatever of people that we got there. This is what I'm trying to help you. Nicholas comes in there and gives her somewhat of an alibi. Like, oh yeah, she was with me, and I had an argument with my son, and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. And Finn also talked about the fact that Spencer was drunk, which is not making him look good now. Seeing the animosity that Spencer once had for Ava, it ain't looking good for him. But yeah, Nicholas comes in and gives her some sort of alibi. They start talking for a little bit when Jordan leaves the room, and Finn leaves to talk. I guess to deal with a patient or whatever. And Les is like, "What are you doing? Why'd you give her that half truth? Like, you don't know exactly all the places I was at." But Nicholas said he did it because he cares about her and yada yada yada. I don't know. Maybe down the line they're gonna sit there and try to revisit that whole, I don't know, romance thing that they did. When Liz couldn't tell who was the father of her child. Oh, the good old days. But yeah. So at some point, Nicholas leaves, and Finn is there, and Finn is like, "Yo, what's going on? Like, what's going on with Nicholas?" And of course, Liz starts defending him, like, "Oh, he's not doing it for himself. He cares about me, and this, that, and the third." And I'm at this point, I'm just like, Finn, I don't hate Liz, so I don't want anyone to sit there and think that I do. But I'm like, if this, I don't know. I just feel like Liz is starting to become a headache for Finn, and vice versa. You know, Liz asked multiple times to respect her privacy and her space, and Finn has just been doing the exact opposite. But now, when they're at a point of nearly breaking up, he wants to start apologizing up and down like there's no tomorrow. And I'm just like, Liz, like, I don't know. There's a lot of people that don't want those two together. So I'm pretty sure most of them are watching this scene and just kind of happy and just like, just break up and just be done already. But I don't feel like they're going to give people what they want. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, another person that is frustrating me is Carly. Now, when Drew wants to then try to make a go out of it, and Carly has her reservations, and she's like, I don't really know myself anymore. At first, I was like, what are you talking about? But then she explains that for years, she's been defined by Sonny, by Jason, by her kids. Her marriage is done, Jason is gone, and the only thing that she has left is her kids. So she's feeling kind of out of sorts. And given the bad decisions that she made as far as the investment and everything like that, she's like, you know what? I don't want to sit there and make a bad decision and want to, I guess, ruin whatever sort of friendship, the friendship that they have. And you know what? I can understand that. I can understand that. And for a hot minute in this episode, I was so annoyed with Carly because I'm like, what are you doing? We've been going this back and forth or whatever for weeks. And now you're having all these reservations? Like, what are you doing? But I understood. I understood where she was coming from. The problem with that whole thing is that even though that she does make sense, they're going to sit there and continue this flirting back and forth. I mean, even afterwards, Drew's like, oh, come on now, this is BS, this, that, and the third. He kisses her, and then, he walks off, and I'm just like, so we're going to sit there and play this whole back and forth thing for how long? I mean, part of me agrees with Carly and is like, you know what, maybe we should just kind of take a step back. Because you haven't exactly been making the best decisions so far. Especially with the whole Willow and keeping her in the dark about the truth of her, her bio mom, and then the whole MetroCorp thing. I get it. So, it's interesting. It's like I'm frustrated, but it's like I'm frustrated at times. But at other times, like now that she explained it, I understand where she's coming from. But I guess in some instances, it still feels like it's dragging out so long. Um, Trina didn't do much of anything. I mean, she was there with Spencer, and Spencer was giving support. Um, but started talking negative about Nicholas, but didn't really get into details of why. There was one point where Trina was like, I'm here to talk if like if you want to talk to me, I'm here to listen. And she grabbed Spencer's hand. And I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I don't think it's official that Trina is with Rory, but I'm like, I feel like things like that, while she means well as far as just, you know, lending out a hand and stuff like that, I feel like it's one of those things where it could just be misinterpreted. And also, I think that she still does have feelings for Spencer in a romantic setting. I mean, yeah, she's with Rory now, but it's like, I just feel like at the end of this whole thing, Rory's going to get hurt, and I may feel bad for him, depending on, whatever sort of background that we got from him. I mean, whatever background that we get from him in the future. Because there's a lot of people that, I've been snittering in the comment section, basically saying that Rory isn't a squeaky clean guy that he's making himself out to be, which would be hell of interesting. But I want to see just exactly how dirt, how much dirt he actually is hiding. Oh, and then Ava's condition seemed like it was, Like the monitors start going off and everything like that. So it seemed like her condition is not looking so good today. But at the same time, in the beginning when the alarm started going off, I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But that was something I thought about, and I was like, how long have I been watching soap operas? When you've seen that exact scene, the monitor goes off, it looks like the patient, look like the character's about to die, but then next episode, they bring her back and everything like that. So it was one of those things where it was like, in the beginning, I was like, oh man, but then I was like, wait, no, you're not doing that to me. No, no, no. She's gonna be fine next episode. No, I've been watching these soap operas for a while. You're not gonna get me with that one. Now, before I do go, I do have a question, sort of, or just I don't know. So a lot of times with General Hospital, there's a lot of lingering stories that go, they just go for too long, and people always just like, you need to hurry this up. You need to kind of just wrap up these storylines, because they're taking too long. Every now and then, when I catch Y&R, the last storyline that I was watching was, the Ashland case, and I felt like they rushed the hell out of that. Like when the actor left, the way that Chance, if you watch Y&R, you know what I'm talking about. The way he kind of just rushed that whole investigation. I mean, not rushed it, but like just decided to drop it and everyone just move on. It seemed like it was done. It seemed like it was rushed. Okay, it seemed like it was rushed, and it seemed like there was plenty more story to go. They could have tried to find those drivers and Victor's men and track them down and get information and you know see if we could sit there and try to put Victor behind jail or something like that. But it's like they just dropped it like that. And it was so fast. And this wasn't the first time that I've heard that they just rushed the storyline. So it's one of those things where it's like, while people complain with GH as far as storylines dragging on for too long, you got stuff like Y&R that they just drop stuff like this just, you know? So I guess the question is, where's the balance at? You know? And I'm specifically asking those questions. I'm specifically asking that question to the people that watch GH and Y&R. And I am interested to hear, everyone's answers. And with that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe, and I will see you in the next video.